What's going on, YouTube? You got Bacon here bringing you my Week 3 matchup for the ABC. This week going up against the Houston Hitmons, coached by Jan. Jan took over for Frost in kind of the middle of the week here, formerly of the LA Latios. So because of kind of the shift during the middle of the week, Jan agreed to play with Frost's old team, so to make up a team really quick by the end of the week for me to play, since I'd already prepped for Frost at that point in the week. Going forward, Jan's changes will be in effect for week 4 and onward. I'm really excited to see what Jan can do with the team going forward. But just kind of looking at this week, because it is versus the old team, my opponent's got available the Mew, Kartana, Clefable, Mega Aerodactyl, Raikou, Terrakion, Kingdra, Nidoqueen, Snorlax, Politoed, Incineroar, Kabutops, and Rockium Z Crystal. So I didn't know if he would bring the small Rain Core versus me, especially because I have the Tyranitar, but I want to have the Comfey just in case. Priority Giga Drain can revenge the Kabutops. Priority Draining Kiss can do a lot of damage to the Kingdra. So this week I've got Calm Mind, Giga Drain, Draining Kiss, and Taunt on my Comfey. Taunt is really nice because it means I can set up on Clefable, assuming he's not Magic Guard. And even if he is Magic Guard, he won't be doing too much to me. Unaware rather. He won't be doing too much to me with like Moonblasts and Flamethrowers and stuff, and I can prevent it from soft boiling using Taunt. Next up, we've got a basically dedicated lead Frostlass this week with Spikes, Will-O-Wisp, Ice Beam, and Taunt as well. Taunt being nice for a potential lead Clefable or lead Mew with Stealth Rock. So I can taunt them, prevent them from getting up Stealth Rocks or Thunder Waving me or anything like that, or even a potential like setup Mew with Nasty Plot or Rock Polish. I can taunt those and then just start to set up my own spikes. Really good against a lot of the team. A lot of the team was grounded. And I really like Frostlass as a potential lead here. Even if he brought the Aerodactyl or the Terrakion or something like that, I could just fire off a Will-O-Wisp turn 1. And with that Focus Sash, I wouldn't have to worry about getting knocked out on the first turn, and getting a burn off on either of those things would be huge for me. This week we've got not a Choice Scarf and Fernape. We got Chimpact coming in here with the Expert Belt, U-Turn, Vacuum Wave, Close Combat, and Gunk Shot this week. Gunk Shot obviously going to put in huge damage on that Clefable. It won't OHKO it from full, but it won't. The Clefable shouldn't be able to OHKO me either. Gunk Shot obviously going to be a 2-hit KO there. U-Turn is nice for big chip damage on the Mew, which I'm anticipating to be the likely switch into my Infernape this week, and also just kind of get out of there into an appropriate response. And good for momentum throughout the game. I can bluff Choice Scarf, things like that. Close Combat obviously being really nice to hit a lot of the team. Terrakion, Incineroar, Kartana, all those kind of things. Just really hard with the Close Combat. Vacuum Wave does OHKO the Kartana from full, so nice to have the Vacuum Wave on there. I don't have to play any games with Mach Punch or Close Combat, or does he think I'm Scarfed? Does he know that I'm not Scarfed? That kind of thing. Vacuum Wave will just clean knock out the Kartana, so I won't have to worry about it. We got a bulky Mega Tyranitar this week with, again, Stealth Rock. This is, I think, the third week in a row I brought Stealth Rocks on my Mega Tyranitar, which is a little unfortunate considering how many other Stealth Rock options I have. But it was just really good in this matchup. A kind of bulky variant of Tyranitar, so I can take a Focus Blast from Mew. I've also got Crunch on there, as well as Earthquake and Stone Edge. Just really good coverage for the rest of the team. I've got Choice Scarf, Rotom Wash this week. Obviously going to be able to outspeed things like Terrakion and the Aerodactyl specifically. Be able to hit him with my dual stabs of Hydro Pump, Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, and actually I have Trick this week for things like Clefable, things like Politoed, bulky variant of Mew, things like Snorlax, pretty much anything that's going to want to come in on me and try to take some hits or set up on me potentially. I'll be able to trick them a Choice Scarf and basically render them useless if they're a potential setup sweeper like the Clefable or Mew. I know when I was prepping for this team, Frost had already run both Calm Mind Clefable and Calm Mind Mew to this point in the season. So I was thinking if I could get a trick onto one of them with him not expecting it, I could basically neuter those things going forward. And lastly here we've got Choice Band Scizor, huge threat to things like Aerodactyl and Terrakion. It does OHKO them with Bullet Punch, obviously putting in huge damage on the Clefable, though not quite an OHKO. I am expecting it to have Flamethrower, so I'll have to play around that a little bit just so I don't lose my Scizor for no reason. A decent revenge killer for things like Kabutops and stuff like that. Overall, just puts in really big damage on his team. U-Turn, Bullet Punch, Knockoff, and Superpower. Superpower being nice to help me break through a potential Cursed Snorlax. Even if he's at +1, I'm still doing about 3/4 of its health with a banded Superpower, and Superpower to predict things like potential Incineroar switch in. So just looking at what Jan's brought here, got the Politoed, the Mew, Snorlax, Incineroar, Clefable, and Raikou. I'm guessing that's not Rain Dance, or not Rain Dance, Drizzle Polytoad just off the bat here, because why would you bring Drizzle without your Rain Sweepers? You're just basically setting up Rain for me to protect my Scizor from fire moves, which wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. So I am thinking that's a water absorb variant of Politoed, just to switch in on my Hydro Pumps from Rotom. Obviously it's not going to want to take electric moves, but off the bat here, just looking at my potential lead matchup, I really still like my lead Frostlass here as my dedicated lead going in. Getting up spikes is really nice considering his whole team is grounded. So that's what I've decided to lead with here. I'm not really sure what he's going to come out with, but like I said, before the battle had even started, I'd planned on leading with the Frostlass. So just getting right into it, we got the Frostlass lead in against the Raikou. Now the Raikou is actually pretty dangerous here. I can't allow it to set up if it's some kind of Subcalm Mind variant, and if he's not a Subcalm Mind variant, I anticipate the Volt Switch, which he does go for, to switch out into something like Mew or Clefable. So I'm just going to throw off a taunt here. Like I said, prevented the Raikou from setting up on me any further, and also would prevent things like Clefable and Mew from coming in and going for Stealth Rocks or Calm Mind or anything like that. So just firing off the taunt, and I'm pretty content here to just sack the Frostlass to get up a spike here, as he is going to reveal the Flamethrower on the Clefable. So obviously, kind of sucks to lose my Frostlass that early in the game, but its defogging option is limited to Mew, and if that's a defogged Mew, I can take advantage of that later in the game. And that spike's going to be really nice to rack up damage on his team, especially things like the Raikou, which might otherwise be kind of problematic for me if it's carrying like Aura Sphere, for example. So I'm just going to go right out to my Rotom here, and I'm going to anticipate something like a Mew switch or maybe the Clefable to stay in, and I'm just going to Trick immediately, because I don't really need my Choice Scarf this game, since the only thing that I don't currently outspeed is the Raikou, and I'm not doing a ton of damage to that thing anyways. So getting the Trick onto the Politoed is really nice here. I'm pretty sure he's not going to lock himself into a water move against my Rotom here, because that would be essentially just kind of sacking off his Politoed at this point. So I'm going right out into Tyranitar here, the Mega Tyranitar, to take whatever this Politoed is going to go for, as he does reveal the Psychic. Obviously, I'm immune to Psychic being a Dark type here, and since it's now locked into Choice Scarf, I know for a fact that it can't stay in on me anymore. So looking right now, his really only good switch-in is Clefable, and that's 2-hit KO'd on switch-in if he's Magic Guard, and he's actually unaware Clefable, so maybe predicting a Dragon Dance here, but I just go for Stone Edge, and you can see the massive amount of damage that does to this Clefable. And it's also not leftovers, revealing what I think is probably a Babiri Berry to catch my Scizor on a Bullet Punch and then to knock it out with a Flamethrower on the following turn. Cool prep. That was the idea there, but it's just going to go right down to Tyranitar. So Tyranitar already picking up a kill this early in the game. It's looking really good versus this team, actually, especially with the Politoed being in range of a Crunch at this point, or an Earthquake probably. We're just going to go out to Snorlax, and this thing's kind of a problem. I am anticipating this to be a Curse Recycle type Snorlax with a Figgy Berry or something like that. So I'm just going to go out right into my Comfey to taunt this Snorlax so it can't set up all over me, as he does go for the first Curse. Again, I'm thinking this is something like Curse Recycle, Body Slam, Fire Punch, something like that, to hit my Scizor and basically the rest of my team really hard, and that's a huge problem for my team as it currently stands. I haven't seen leftovers, so again, guessing it's the Berry type set. So I'm just going to taunt as he just wallops me with a Gunk Shot on this turn. I was not anticipating the Gunk Shot on this set, but it just blew my Comfey out of the water. Not too much of a problem for me, because Comfey was mostly here for his potential Rain aspects and also for the Terrakion, none of which came. So I'm kind of content there to make the trade of the taunt for the Comfey there. Again here, I really can't afford to have this thing be Berry and start hitting it with physical moves. So I just Trick again, and I take its Figgy Berry and give it these leftovers. Obviously, leftovers still going to be healing up the Snorlax over time, but I'm perfectly content to make that trade as long as I take its berry away from it and prevent any kind of recycle shenanigans from happening. And it actually does proc this turn, healing me up. Obviously, it was a Figgy Berry, which is going to confuse me because I'm a minus attack nature. So I am confused now. I do decide to risk it here and just go for the Volt Switch to get that chip damage off on the Snorlax. Hopefully put it in range of like my Scizor's Superpower or my Close Combat from Infernape, as I do go right out into the Scizor, anticipating a normal type move on this turn, as he does show the return. So now I'm starting to kind of wonder if he has Fire Punch, because I was thinking with the Berry set, he'd have Recycle on it. Taunt wears off, so I'm thinking he'll either switch out or go for another Curse. Superpower is a roll not in my favor to kill at this point, so I'm just going to hit him with the U-turn. Do a pretty massive chunk of damage there, getting the Snorlax pretty low, and this is where it's nice that I already took the Snorlax's berry, because it would have procced there, and he would be able to recycle potentially. but just goes for another curse as I make kind of a risky play out into my Infernape, predicting, like I said, to switch out, not in this case to switch out since I already U-turn, but predicting something like a Fire Punch or another curse. He's obviously got to switch out here because close combat threatens him. He's just going to sack off the Politoed. I think that was his best play at that point. I really don't want to be taking any unnecessary damage on the Mew, especially because it's going to have to come in on Spike's damage plus the close combat. So just sacking off the Politoed, able to get rid of that thing pretty early in the match, which is good for me. Now I'm pretty unhindered from going for Hydro Pumps with my Rotom. Goes into the Mew. I'm thinking this is probably a defensive variant of Mew, and he just wants to get up Stealth Rocks or something like that. You turn out, and I do actually some pretty solid damage to this thing. I don't see Rocky Helmet or anything like that, but just trying to be safe here. Going out into my Rotom is kind of my most expendable member at this point, as he does reveal the Nasty Plot. So it's an offensive Mew this week, which is actually pretty scary because it doesn't look like another U-turn from my Infernape's going to knock it out. Depending on his spread, I could knock it out with Bullet Punch, but he actually goes for Focus Blast here, so I'm guessing he didn't have the Psychic on this Mew, and unfortunately he misses and eats a Hydro Pump, which also does not knock him out, so he's still sitting on 1% here. Again, Rotom's still the least useful member on my team. Obviously I can revenge kill this Mew with Bullet Punch on Scizor or U-turn for my Infernape, so I'm just going to sack off the Rotom here as he goes for the Volt Switch, which means that Spike is going to stay up for the rest of the game, regardless of whether or not this thing had Defog forced onto its set, and that thing's actually going to die on switch in, so he's just kind of saving it for a sack later in the game. Brings out the Incineroar here, which is going to allow me to get my Infernape in once again, and I'm just going to be able to click close combat. He really doesn't have a good switch in at this point. Shows the fake out on Incineroar, which is cool tech to kind of wear down my Infernape. Obviously I brought Choice Scarf from Infernape 2 weeks in a row to start the year, or to start out the season, so good on him to get the chip damage off on the Infernape with the fake out, and I do predict the Muzak, but there's not really anything I can do to take advantage of it. I don't have any setup variant on this Infernape. If I did, I would have clicked Swords Dance there, I think, because I wasn't really too threatened by the Infernape, the Incineroar being in on me. But he does sack off the Mew just to intimidate Cycle here with the Incineroar. I'm thinking he's just going to go for Fake Out again to try and rack up the chip damage, but either way, he can't really touch my Tyranitar too much. I believe Incineroar does get Earthquake or something like that, which I guess I maybe shouldn't have risked here. But he just goes for Fake Out again, which is obviously not going to do anything to Tyranitar. And after this sand damage, he is guaranteed in range of an Earthquake because I haven't been intimidated. And Earthquake is just absolutely free for me here. So I'm just going to click that and knock out this Incineroar. So he had another kill here for the Tyranitar. That's 2 this game. And now we've just got the Snorlax and the Raikou sitting in front of us, but the Snorlax is extremely low. It will die to a Crunch if it comes in, and of course the Raikou will die to an Earthquake. Like I mentioned, I do think it has Aura Sphere, but with the sand up, it really can't do too much to me. I think the roll for a Rash Raikou at this point is something like 60% on my Tyranitar, which I'm obviously out of range of. I'm even out of range of a crit, I believe, on the Aura Sphere. So at this point, Tyranitar is just going to win the game, knocking out the Snorlax, and then picking up yet another kill here on the Raikou. So 4 kills for Tyranitar here. Really good work from it. Didn't even need to run a setup variant to get all this damage off. Just really potent threat against the team because there was no Terrakion, no Aerodactyl, things like that. It was kind of a slow team that he ended up bringing. Once the Mew went down and I caught the Clefable on switch, and he really didn't have a lot of good things to threaten it out. It's kind of a reverse scenario of what happened in my VPLC Week 1 game. If you watched that upload earlier, VPL Season 3 Week 1 game against Dick, where I just really didn't have good switch-ins to Tyranitar, and it's kind of the opposite in this case, where I had the Tyranitar, and it feels real good to have the Tyranitar, I gotta tell you that. Able to put in some huge work this game. Really happy with the team I brought. Basically worked out how I was hoping it would. Obviously, sacking off the Frostlass early in the game wasn't the greatest on my end because I could have saved the Will-O-Wisp for things like the Snorlax to make it less of a threat later in the game. But overall, I think the Spike's pressure, just that one Spike being up, really put a lot of pressure on his team. And overall, I'm pretty happy with how I played this one. I don't think there was a whole lot that I could have done differently. Really good game to Jan. Fun game to Jan, the Houston Hitmons. This was actually a kind of tricky game to play around with the Snorlax specifically, thinking at the time it was going to be kind of a recycle type set. Later revealed to me to be actually an Earthquake as the last move on that Snorlax, which could have been a problem if I picked the wrong switch in at the wrong time. With like when I brought the Infernape in on it, if you just clicked Earthquake there, my Infernape would have been gone, which would have been real bad for me. Obviously, Scizor would have been able to come in and click Superpower or something to get the Snorlax out of there, but still would have been pretty sketchy late game for me, actually, if I didn't have the Infernape. But really fun game, like I mentioned, Jan. Really excited to see how Jan does later in the season here with the new team. I think they picked up a lot of fat. Things like Amungus, Alamomola, Registeel. Like, that team's going to be real annoying to try and break through going forward. And I think Jan's actually got definitely a kind of upper hand here in that we don't really, I don't know if anybody else in the league who necessarily knows Jan, but might have a little bit of an upper hand in that we haven't seen anything really from Jan's team to this point. So when you go into prep week 4 here, it's only an 8-week season. You've got nothing to go back to and look at and see, okay, well, how's Jan play? Like, what kind of prep are they going to bring? But I'm excited to see what they're able to do. This was a really good game. Well prepped considering the kind of time frame on Jan's part. So really happy that you were able to come into the league and kind of step up here and help us out. But that's it from me, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I did actually try something a little different with music this time. We'll see how well that came through. But shout out to GlitchX City for the music. Really, really fire soundtracks. If you haven't listened to them, go check out their channel. It'll be in the description. Thank you guys very much for watching if you did to this point, and have a good one. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.